it's in 4-hour times, but it's the equivalent of 4 or 5 whole pages, and it's much more
of the essay.
Yes, 4 hours. You got to finish the whole thing.
Well, yeah, and we've got.
But do you have also the national examination system?
We do, but it's a little different. We don't have the provinces system, so it's the same for the whole country, which is actually as big as a province in China anyway. But we have a difference, which is that we already choose if we. It's a kind of micro majoring, but the 3 mains are science, art, and economics.
Okay.
So according to which direction you have taken, you're going to have differences.
Different essays, different titles.
Well, obviously, yes. We cannot. I mean, I was, of course, majoring in arts, so you cannot give me the maths or physics.
And talking about this specifically, the essays being required of all these exam sitters, and it's different titles given to different students in different provinces. It seems that all these newspapers, websites will be focusing on, hey, what is the topic? No, what is the title for this year's essay? It seems it's very much talked about.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in the States, we don't have a national exam, although many people, I think the majority of students will take the SAT.
Yeah.
For college entrance application. And there's an essay part in the SAT that changes depending on when you take the SAT. But as long as if we all take it at the same time, we'll have the same essay questions. And usually it's not a title. They don't give you a title and say, okay, this is the title, write the essay. They'll give you a quote or a scenario.
Well, it's a little similar to what we had in France. I remember in philosophy, because when we major in it's not exactly arts. You say humanities. Humanities. So it's mainly focused on language. Yeah. It can be your own language or foreign languages, and also philosophy. For France, it's very important. So philosophy is what we study 8 hours a week. We have lessons for philosophy, and actually the marks for philosophy count many more times than the rest. And we had 3 choices for the topic. The one was actually a quote, as you said, from someone, a famous person, and you have to comment on that. But you have to have a certain form, which is usually to first part, second part, third part. The third part being a conclusion. And very often the first part and the second part having to contradict each other and coming back to your own opinion at the end.
So that is easy. Well, so you have the format anyway. You basically just fill in the blank.
No.
No, because it's a lot of it is asking for your opinion and what you think.
What you think, and you have to have read a lot.
You might have the format. The format might be there, like opening paragraph, content, conclusion. That's standard form. But then, what the content
be filled in there?
Is entirely up to you.
Inside the big part 1 of the 3. You're going to have small a's and big a's and small a's and some examples.
Yeah, so it is complicated.
We can still see both of you have vivid memories about that experience, taking the exams and also finishing all these essays.
So how does it work specifically with the Gaokao? They're just given a title?
It's for any exams, and it's not only about title, and sometimes either it could be a painting, a cartoon, then you find your own titles and you finish your essays, or sometimes it's a quote, as you said, sometimes it's a story or a report. But in many cases, it will be a title given out by the exam organizer, and then you would decide what kind of article, what kind of essay you might want to finish with a title like that.
That's hard because that's quite big. It's not a specific thing.
Makes me think of some really bad journalists that you face, unfortunately, a lot, that are going to ask, so, what do you think about China?
Hey, and talking about the journalists and also some famous writers, and one big thing, actually, after the national examinations, once they've got the information about the title for this year's examination, all these newspapers, some of them would organize these professional writers. Okay, what about you? If you are the exam taker,
what would you write?
What would you write with a title like that? And they would publish some of these articles on the newspapers, on the websites, and some would turn out to be very good. Some actually, if they are taken, if they're marked actually by these judges, won't come out good.
There's another problem. I remember for philosophy we had that problem too. Is that, I mean, in theory, the teachers that actually correct and give you, you know,
your mark.
Your mark, are not supposed to judge based on your opinions, but at the end you get judged by your opinions all the time, and it's pretty tough. If it's for history or stuff like that, it's you know, it's more pure knowledge. I mean, you can have some of your own interpretation, but still, it's more about knowledge. But then once you come to literature, the interpretation of something, or pure philosophy, it's really, really tough.
It's hard to be unbiased, basically, because really, I mean, I don't know about China or France so much, but in the States, it's how do you write, like, how is your essay writing skills? You know, how are they? Can you put forth a cohesive argument, whether or not whatever you're arguing, that's fine, but how do you do it?
Hey, if you have your own logic, then that is
exactly.
Just fine.
Do you want to know my final mark for philosophy exam? No. I'll tell you later.
Yeah. Okay.
It was, I mean, the highest mark in France is 20. I got 19.
Wow.
And it was counting, and it was the most important of
remember
all that, because it's the most important of everything else.
Yeah.
So I didn't care about anything. Once I saw that, oh, okay.
So do you want to know my mark?
For what? For the
final examination?
Final examination?
And I'm not going to tell you. Let's just come back to the titles, or say the essays of these national examinations, because another reason for being so big in this society, not only for the students, is because normally the titles are also the ones that will reflect what's happening in this society. And normally that will be the topics actually being discussed by all these, you know, the ones living in the same country and the same society. So it's a reflection of what's happening during these days in China. So next we're going to go through all these topics, either the titles for this year, and we might even go back to years ago, and we'll see. Sometimes we'll find the differences, and some are very interesting. But before that, let's take a short break first, and when we come back, more titles to share with you.
困難幾時都會有，家人嘅感受先至係最重要嘅。
There are always more solutions than problems. Love yourself. Love your family.
Welcome back to Crossover. Let's continue our discussion about the essays being required of all the graduates from high schools in China. It's an annual event, so every year all these students will take these national examinations. And one very important part of one subject, Chinese literature, is essay writing. And in many cases, they will be given a title to write upon. Now, the first title. It's looking forward to growing up.
It's a little bland.
Well, I'm interested because I always thought, I never really looked into that. I always thought that in China, you know, up till the SATs or Gaokao, it was pretty much about memorizing everything by heart and not really going with your own knowledge and your own thinking.
Yeah.
And it seems that actually this gives you pretty much of, you know,
freedom, space.
Yeah, but there's my question. How, based on what, are the teachers who read that gonna give them marks? You know.
Well, but again, I mean, the way standardized tests are graded, it's not so much content as it. I mean, content is important, but the most important thing is how well you write an essay.
How do you
organize structure it? How do you present? How do you present it? I mean, that's where the marks come in.
Still, it's theory.
But the thing is, I mean, you can't really judge an article and an essay 100% fair. I mean, it's very much personal judgment in the end.
Okay, on this topic, let's see what I, or even my younger brother, because we had the same way of thinking when we were 17, 18, is like, don't want to go to university, I hate that.
Whatever you say is fine.
I don't want to go to school, and I hate this kind of thinking, and I hate this writer, and I want to...
But you know, Julian, whatever you say is fine. This is not about, you know, we're not testing your plans for your future. And it's basically testing about how you're going to organize your logic in writing that essay.
I totally understand that, but here's my problem. In France, it's the same. For philosophy, for literature, it's the same. They are not supposedly allowed to judge you on your opinions, but it doesn't work. And I'm sure in China it must be very tough too, because some people will have
but I mean, I think that's a flaw to this kind of testing system in any country that you just have to go with. I mean,
I guess the standards would be whether you've made clear your points, whether the points are being organized in a clear way, whether the words chosen are good, well chosen, are fancy words, and whether it's nice to read about. All these different standards. Next one. It is a huge one. Rise of China.
Oh.
You're asking a graduate of high school to write on a topic like that?
Damn. That's, wow.
Rise of China. I mean, this is the topic for all these philosophers and
be careful, especially
decision makers of the country. You know?
Especially for those topics, really be careful what you write, because some teachers don't like some form of thinking. And you can write as well as you want. You can have the best, you know, writing, you can write with an incredible level, but if some of your opinions are a little not with, you know, if you have a teacher who is an extreme nationalist and when you think of the rise of China and you start to write stuff that, such as, you know, we still have to be careful and humble and there are things more important and stuff like that. And maybe some people don't like it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they will be reminded to focus mainly or solely on how they organize the article instead of the opinions and being reflected in those essays. Move on to the next one. This is actually a reflection of what's happening these days around us. How do you see China winning another sweep of all these gold medals in table tennis, in ping pong championship?
That's a pretty good one.
You think?
Yes, because at least it gives you, the problems are very...
It's a little more specific.
It's very specific, it's very obvious.
Yeah, but what if you don't, I don't watch ping pong.
Of course, yeah, that's another thing.
I mean, there are plenty of boys and girls that might not watch ping pong.
Oh, so you don't have a choice when you get one of those?
You don't.
Aha. Oh, no,
see, that's not cool.
No, that's not cool.
But the thing is, I mean, all these students, they are required to expand their focus more than just the academic studies, more than their textbooks. They're required to read news, the current affairs.
For example, I like tennis and basketball. So when I go to the sports news, I'll be looking for tennis and basketball news.
So how do you see Li Na winning the French championship?
Go Li Na!
Let's get Li Na. Oh, well, on this matter, I'm sure if Li Na was doing one, 高考作文, one of those essays, it would be funny. Because she has a really great sense of humor.
Because that is also the reflection of what's happening in China. Chinese ping pong team is extremely strong in the world, and they always have a sweep of all these gold medals, and some are arguing this is not good for the future of ping pong, even not good for Chinese.
Okay,
and
I have a question.
That sort of,
do you have, in the materials you have here, how is that essay question received?
For that one,
the ping pong one.
I do have the full question over here, so let me just read it over to you.
Okay.
In the championship of World Table Tennis, China won the championship again, the gold medals again, and people have different views over it. Some say China is powerful enough and they deserve all these gold medal titles, and some say you should give chance for others to have a breakthrough, to have the championships, to win the titles. And some also say China should stand aside for one moment, and you can't always stay in that place forever. It should give the chance for some other, say, competitors. Please choose an angle and finish the essay.
Okay, okay. Then if the question's phrased that way, I could write an essay about it, even though
sure.
I don't watch ping pong.
Well, there were, I don't want to talk about this too much, but the big problem was actually if it goes on like that, it might disappear from the Olympics because there are not enough countries that want to play ping pong, you know, in the Olympics.
Well, Federer dominated tennis for years, and people
No, it's different, but he never represented his country.
And NBA dominated basketball field for so many years.
I don't know.
It's something else. It's something
Well,
else.
it's, I mean, again, that is,
Yeah.
But
that's
so
the
that's,
topic.
that's,
That is the
why, that's why
reflection.
it's a good one, because we don't agree on
Exactly,
this.
that is the reflection of what's happening in the society around us. And remember, all these students, they're required to focus not only on the academic studies, but on around us and what is happening surrounding them. So this is a little reminder to watch TV a little bit, or to you know, pay attention to the to current affairs. Well, the ones that we shared with you and also with the audience, with the viewers before the break, were basically the ones that we see. Some of them we saw this year in 2011, and some, you know, they have different orientations. Some would focus on, say, the future plans, or some would be focusing on what's happening around us recently. And I've got a pile of paintings over here, and these are now a bit earlier in the 1980s and some in the 90s. This is a very famous painting. It's called Digging Wells. And you'll see this guy trying to dig a well. Some deep enough, not enough, but the water is over here. So he's never finished his project. Some over here, some over here. And when you see this painting, write an article about it according to your understanding about this.
Oh, that's pretty. There are a lot of points that we can make.
Exactly. And this is very famous painting for its. This is the first time that a cartoon was used
in the Gaokao.
In the Gaokao, in the national
At least
exam.
I see two. One would be, you know, never abandon. You know, you
always keep going.
Always keep going. And the other one would go even deeper. When you have to have a little, maybe at 18 years old you don't understand that, but in life very often you realize that the interest in life is actually lays there, you know, in always seeking, but not arriving to a certain point or getting to something.
The journey,
always,
the journey is what's important.
So maybe you never get there, but you can have a happy life if your mindset is right. So this is deeper. This is deeper.
You want to try this one?
Okay.
You can finish it actually after the show.
Sure.
This is another painting, another cartoon. It's basically we have a Chinese lying over here. Hey, I've got another question I can't finish, can't deal with, and the boy is rushing to his computer.
Or so I've got another homework,
puzzle,
like
another homework
that I
that
don't know how to do.
Yeah. They can use their computer at home, and then sometimes to rely too much on the computer, even if not for computer games.
Or, you know, you could say the other way and say, well, you know, they're using their resources to try to figure things out.
In a positive way.
In a positive way.
Julianne?
Okay, next one.
All right. Here is the next one.
I suppose you could also talk about how the kid should wash his feet, his dirty feet.
Absolutely.
Really? You really want to do that?
Yeah, this is actually to show you the route, and
Charlotte,
he's been rushing to the computer for many times.
I give you 0.5. That is pretty good mark.
Creativity, come on.
Right, here is another one. I'll explain the Chinese lines over here first, and then Julianne, you tell me your thoughts on it. These are the cats.
Yes.
And these...
Eating.
These are fish. This is a mouse. And what it's saying over here is, who would bother to catch any mouse anymore these years, since we're given fish in these days? So, Julianne?
That was in Shanxi province, Linfen.
That's not the question I'm asking.
That's it. Well, yeah. Well, you can choose a few angles also.
Please tell us.
Really? Well,
0.5.
There's a lot to say. Okay.
Just
What is
you go on. You go on.
Yeah.
You have more creativity than I.
Now, come on.
just because you have fish doesn't mean that the mice cease to exist and someone still has to catch the mice.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can deal also with problems. I mean, you could go with problems of poverty and rich people and society problems, and when my mom also used to tell me that you have to finish everything you have in your plate because there are so many kids who die starving,
even have food.
and well, you can relate to a lot of problems.
Yeah, I guess these are the examples showing a painting like this giving the students more opportunities to be creative. Because this is the painting given to all these students, and it really depends on how you understand all these paintings. We have more paintings over here. These are like all these anecdotes that we might come across in reading the traditional literature.
I don't know if they translate all that in English, but on a lot of Chinese websites, especially these days, you have tons of those, and you're going to find dozens of the funny ones. And also, not only of the funny topics, but also the funny answers of the funny essays themselves. We could actually do one show about the essays themselves and see what some
people
write.
actually come up with.
It's hilarious.
I bet.
It's hilarious.
I mean, the fun thing about giving, especially giving anyone, essay topics like this, it's not as spelled out for you, and you can really just use your imagination and come up with whatever you feel like coming up with.
Talking about the style of these essays, and you say you want to share some essays finished by the students with our views, but be careful, because sometimes you might not be able to understand what they've written about.
Especially once you translate it into English.
No, that is because we don't understand. It's written in the ancient style.
Oh, some of it.
Some of it. Because remember, sometimes it says you can choose your own style, you can choose your own topics, you can choose your own titles. Okay, you said everything other than poems, and mostly you're not allowed to write poems as an essay for an exam like that. But when it's not that clearly stated, any style is possible.
Well,
and
but
there
if
is one time, actually, maybe last year or the year before, quite a few students, and they were extremely good in ancient literature. They read a lot. They knew so well about this classical literature, all these ancient expressions that we might come across early, but we do not use them anymore these days. And sometimes it is even difficult for us to only understand those expressions in ancient words. And there were quite a few students who finished their essays in fantastically organized, structured, ancient style, classical Chinese style.
And the teacher does not understand?
They couldn't understand. Well, I wouldn't say they couldn't, but some would be focusing on the modern literature, some would be focusing on ancient literature. And one of them was actually given a full mark of that essay.
Wow.
But the thing is, he was extremely good in Chinese literature, especially classical Chinese literature, but not so good in other subjects. So he's got a full mark in that subject, but overall score, he still failed. No.
Yeah, this is what I really don't approve of in the system. I really don't approve of having children who are already adults, and forcing them to be good in everything. I just don't think it's right. It's not what happens in life.
But the teachers or the schools, the society, the parents would be expecting what they say a balance of development in all these disciplines.
Yes, but the reason why the parents expect this is because the system is like this. If the system was to change, the parents would be okay as soon as he can graduate and go to a good university. I don't think the parents care.
Hard to say, I mean, because the opposite argument, and I don't know that I necessarily have a very clear opinion on this, but you could say, there's so many high school graduates in China because of China's population that you can't look at individual, you can't look at individual cases because there are too many people. and there are just too many, you know, so they have to.
But you're ruining. But this way, you're ruining so many great talents. I'm sorry. So many
you are.
It's a controversial issue.
Yeah.
There is another case. This is more about being creative, because we're talking about the students applying for a position in the Academy of Fine Arts, and for some reason they have one requirement for their marks, their performance in a foreign language, say in English. If they fail in English, if they fail to meet the requirement, the minimum requirement for English, they won't be qualified to get into that Academy of Fine Arts.
That has nothing to do with foreign languages anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was one scholar, one professor, and he was working so hard actually, and he found some talents in those students. And he tried to get all these students into the Academy of Fine Arts because they were very creative, very, you know, very talented in that regard. But
He helped them cheat?
No.
No, because I saw that.
No, they didn't actually achieve the minimum mark in English, so they didn't get it in. And he was so upset, the professor was so upset, and he quit from that academy.
Well, I totally understand that.